Hey guys, this episode is being brought to you by Food and Beverage Atlantic.
They're all about helping food and beverage companies in Atlantic Canada grow.
Welcome to This Commerce Life. We are an unscripted podcast dedicated to small businesses and entrepreneurs in the retail and consumer packaged goods space in Canada and the United States.
I am Phil Chang, co-host and co-founder.
And I'm Kenny Vanucci, co-host and co-founder of This Commerce Life.
Our love is the journey to retail, and our passion is sharing that with you every
week. Mitch, it's nice to meet you.
It works.
Yeah, it's great to meet you too, Phil.
Yeah, thanks for doing this on such.
Yeah, it's cool, Mitch. I'll short notice, so thank you.
Yeah,
No problem. Happy to do it.
yeah. It's kind of weird. We do so many of these that like we don't normally have openings, so it was kind of weird. It actually caught both of us a little bit by surprise because we usually have 7 or 8 episodes kind of in the kitty all the time, so it surprised us a little bit. But and then it really worked because we have been trying to do stuff with Dwayne at Food and Bev Atlantic for a while now, so we're quite strong on the West Coast, and then kind of across the country. But the Atlantic, we've got a bunch of brands that we love a lot, and then we haven't quite grown the way we wanted to. So, kind of exciting to have you here.
Awesome. Happy to do it.
Yeah.
Mitch, where are you based?
Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island.
Well, you're on the island. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's
great.
okay. Cool. Very cool. You born and raised?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Moved away for a few years for university, but moved back when I was 25 and haven't left since.
Wow.
I love it out there. I haven't been out. I guess I haven't been out post-pandemic, but I was out there quite a bit before. Spent some time in Halifax, because of the Sobeys guys and Stellarton. And, that kind of gravitational pull right to Stellarton, but yeah, spent some time in PEI. I really, really, really love it out there.
I think I did 3 nights, middle of winter, and the 4th night was because we couldn't get out.
Oh yeah. Well, need to try and make it back for summer. Yeah.
It was lovely though. It was very quaint. It was. We were in Charlottetown. We were there for the women's curling. This goes back probably, I don't know, 20 years probably, but it was lovely. People were very, very friendly.
Awesome. That's great. I'm glad you had a good time.
Yeah, and I don't care what the rest of maybe I'm going to get some hate mail, but I don't care what the rest of the Maritime says. Lobster's the best in PEI.
Oh, totally.
Like
no one can dispute that.
there's the guys in Shediac that are kind of like, and they put up a giant lobster, but we were like, no, it's so much better in PEI.
There you go.
But we're also excited because I think what you're doing is really cool. We literally had him on. We had him on maybe 6 or 7 weeks ago. We just put out the podcast. With partake as well, right? And
okay.
We just think we think the category is so interesting. We think what's going on there is really interesting. But I think what we'd love to do with you is like get a sense of who you are, like what your journey is. How'd you get to Libra, and then we'll for sure we'll get into Libra for sure. For the audience, we were talking to Mitch Cobb. He's the founder of Drink Libra or Libra, and it's a non-alcoholic craft beer. And you heard him say he's based in PEI, which is super cool, and then just some really cool things happening there. So kind of the next 45 minutes is yours, sir. You tell us what you want to tell us. You start as far back as you want, and then we'll kind of like sit, have some questions for you, and then we'll hopefully have some laughs along the way, and then see where this goes.
Sounds great. So,
yeah.
I mean, I guess my journey in entrepreneurship really really starts in 2015 when I started Upstreet Craft Brewing here in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island. I had a good friend, Mike Hogan, who was an avid home brewer. We'd always go over to his place on Sunday afternoons and help him homebrew. And we just started talking about opening up our own brewery, and we were kind of too far down a path to turn back, and decided to take the leap and open up a brewery here in Charlottetown. And it really kind of started for us as a passion project, and it grew really quickly. We grew our distribution across Atlantic Canada. Opened up a tap room, and then a second location here on PEI, and then a third location in Halifax, like a brew pub. And so things were going really good, but after a couple of years of being in the beer business, I just wasn't feeling like I was on top of my game. I had gained a bunch of weight. I was feeling tired and sluggish, and really just recognized that owning a brewery, there's always an opportunity to have a beer, whether it was a meeting in the tap room with someone, or after work with the staff, or going to beer events and beer festivals, and so I decided, I guess, that I wanted to lose 40 pounds for my 40th birthday. And I was sitting at the bar one night drinking a beer after work, and started to sort of calculate in my head how many calories are in an IPA, and was like, okay, if I'm going to lose weight, I need to reduce my alcohol consumption. Not that it was problematic, but from
empty calories, right?
From a caloric perspective, it definitely was. And so, I started to really reduce my alcohol consumption, and felt great. But I still wanted to go out and do the things that I normally did. I wanted to go out and socialize with my friends. I wanted to go out for dinners, and I didn't want to feel like I wasn't part of, the group by choosing to drink water or soda water or whatever that may be. And so Mike and I really started to dig into what it would take to create a really great tasting non-alcoholic craft beer. And that took, probably be about a year and a half to 2 years of research and development. And we launched our first product in October of 2020. And since then have really grown the brand. We've in 2022, we spun it off into its own company, but, our goal always was, we didn't want to just add a non-alcoholic beer to our portfolio of, alcoholic beers. We wanted to build a whole range of styles that appeal to everyone's taste, and really push the limits of what a non-alcoholic beer could be. So, kind of through the next couple of years after we launched that first beer, we now have 5 flagships. We've done 4 different seasonals, and we've really expanded our distribution right across Canada.
Wow. You're still running both sides though, right? You're still running.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So both sides are still running.
Doing both. Yeah.
Have you, we're probably getting way ahead of ourselves anyway, but it doesn't really matter. We do this all the time. Are you seeing, I'm assuming that the growth in one side is far outpacing the growth in the other side. Like I'm assuming you're definitely seeing a movement, a trend.
Yeah, absolutely. The non-alcoholic side is growing by leaps and bounds compared to the alcoholic side. We're really seeing a shift in the craft beer space where, there's a lot of saturation. There's a lot of craft breweries out there, and I think people are really starting to take notice of the impact that alcohol has on their health and wellness, and so we're seeing some declines, particularly on the craft beer side. Right. We also have a line of RTDs, and they're pretty stable, but certainly the non-alcoholic space is, it's growing substantially. I bet.
Wow.
No, it's an interesting space, and I think it's. And again, I think demographically it's different too. I definitely know my kid. Well, one of the kids, the other one, she does what she does. But I know one of them for sure doesn't, like him and his whole social group, they just really don't drink.
Yeah.
They just don't. It's really not in their world of something to do. Even Dan will just have a beer, have a glass of wine. No, not really.
Yeah.
Like nothing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's definitely, I mean, it's incredible the shift in perception in such a short time, that like, when we first started Libra and started talking about it and doing trials with different non-alcoholic beers, the response that we would get from people was like, oh, that's really nice that you're creating a product for people who can't drink, and we'd try and educate them like, no, that's not what this is about. And, and it was really this sort of hard line in the sand at the time. And either you drank or you didn't. And if you didn't drink, it was because you had issues with alcohol or you had health complications that didn't allow you to drink.
The product was just shitty.
Oh,
really? I think a large part of it, to be very frank with you, is, like I'm way older than you. It's, when I go back and I remember like the first non-alcoholic drinks, you're thinking, well,
they weren't
shit. If anything, this would lead me to drinking. This stuff is like horrific. Like I want a beer. If I want a beer, I want a beer to taste like a beer. The alcohol is not the kicker. Like I like the great taste. I like, beer and sushi, beer and Chinese food, beer and pizza. Like it just goes with things. But when you have a shitty beer, like it's really like, really, why what do I'm not interested.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, and for so long that category just sort of was stagnant, and, the same three products sat, at the bottom of the shelf between the water and the grenadine. And, no one picked it up. And if you did, you were embarrassed to be drinking it. You'd bring it out and you'd stand in the corner and pour it in a glass and pretend that it was a real beer. And that was really sort of the impetus for us, one, creating a really great tasting product, but two, creating a brand that like people felt confident bringing into a party and wanting to share it and wanting to participate, and, taking it and being like, hey, you got to try this new beer. It's a non-alcoholic beer and it tastes really great. And that's really where, we put our focus into, one, making sure it tasted great, but two, making sure that the brand was really on side and didn't scream non-alcoholic, and that, it could line up next to any craft beer and taste as good and look as good.
So we've had a few people on, like we've had Partake, and I can't remember what he's changed this name of the company to, Phil.
Yeah, Opus.
It was Opus. Anyway, non-alcoholics. Yeah. I've lost it for the moment. I'm getting old. But one thing I've never asked, and I'm going to ask. So, does the process of making a beer into an alcoholic beer, like when you take the alcohol out or the process out, is that what causes it to taste? Okay, for lack of a better, where's the shittiness come into it, and what are you able to bridge it without? Like, I guess I don't understand the process. Is the process of getting it to an alcohol is what gives us a taste? Or has it got nothing to do with it and we just done a lousy job making non-alcoholic beers? Does that make sense?
Totally. So, in the past, the way that non-alcoholic beer was made was that they would make beer, and then they would boil all of the alcohol off of the beer.
Okay.
And in boiling the beer for that long, they would also boil off all of the flavor, and you would end up with this sort of sweet, sickly, warty, tasting product. Yeah, I don't know if you know wort. Wort is in the beer.
That's
before a beer is fermented, we call it wort.
Right.
And so there's been a lot of technological innovation in the space where now there's vacuum distillation where they can like remove the alcohol, but at a very low temperature in a vacuum, or through reverse osmosis and filter the alcohol out.
Okay.
And so, that allows the integrity of the beer to stay while removing the alcohol. That's not what we do. We kind of developed our own process where we brew the beer the same way that we would brew our traditional beers, but we just make small changes along the way. So we really use more specialty malts so that we get all of the flavor that you would come to expect, but we use less fermentable malts that have fermentable sugars so that they don't produce alcohol. And then we make just small changes to the timing and temperature in the process so that once it gets to the fermenter, which is traditionally where you would add yeast and the yeast would eat the sugars and convert it to alcohol, there's not there's no sugars there.
There's no sugars left to make alcohol, but you've kept the integrity of the main component of it, I guess. I just was always curious, not understanding, thinking, okay, well, listen, if taking the alcohol out is what kills it, it doesn't matter what you do, you're always going to be just a non-alcoholic beer. And yet when you try a lot of the alternatives that are on the shelves today, really and truly, they're not that bad. Like a lot of them taste like, well, I'll give you an example, and it's not a great beer, so don't get me anything. But, we were in Euros in France in 2016, and about the third game in that we were watching in the stands, like we're all thinking, like, it's like our third or fourth beer. Like, I mean, what's with European beers? And then you find out, well, they serve non-alcoholic beers because they don't need a stadium of mental cases, causing who knows what ruckus. And it was to the point where it wasn't that far off obviously we were 3 games in and we finally clued in. I mean, maybe we're not the brightest people, I don't know, but you're kind of just wondering if they've at least finally have started to catch up to making a better beer.
Yeah. And I mean, I forget what I was going to say there, but Europe for sure is like far and away leaps and bounds ahead of North America in terms of non-alcoholic beer. I mean, I think something like 10 to 12% of beer sales in Europe are non-alcoholic beer, and they've sort of led the way with like vacuum distillation and some of these different different techniques. So, they have a lot of really, really great products coming out of Europe for sure. Yeah. And I mean, in terms of the alcohol, like alcohol does provide some flavor profile to the beer, and it provides a lot of mouthfeel, but there's definitely ways that we can manipulate, I guess, the beer to sort of replace the alcohol with other things that give it a similar quality.
Similar aspects of it, right? Okay. I was always curious about that because I always wonder, like, if what part of the process where it definitely falls apart for the old beers for sure, like definitively where you're thinking, shit. I mean, I just can't drink this stuff. I'd rather I'll just give me the water or give me a normal beer. And there's a lot of times I don't want the normal beer. I don't need the buzz and I don't need the bloatiness of it. I just don't need it. It's not going to make the meal better, but that taste really works well with so many foods.
Yeah, and that's really it. And I think that's really a big shift in people's perception, right? Because I mean, alcohol is such a part of our culture around specific events, and when people, start to taste non-alcoholic beer for the first time, I mean, we see it all the time when, we've really leaned into sampling because we know that as soon as people taste it, you can see the light bulbs go off in their heads and they're like, oh, this would be perfect on the boat, or this would be perfect when I'm golfing, or perfect after work. And really it's less about the alcohol and it's more about, the pairing with food, the taste, and just the whole ritual that we've come to associate with alcohol.
Right.
Do you see, it's interesting, right? Because some of these guys that we've talked to, they have made different switches. Like they've come from something else into non-alcoholic, like Partake, right? Ted didn't do this before. He jumped from being an engineer into making non-alcoholic. You come from making beer to non-alcoholic beer. Do you see a difference in consumer pattern? Like, is the non-alcoholic beer drinker, do they have the same habits as a beer drinker? It's just non-alcoholic? Or do you know what I mean? Like, because I wonder, you're kind of like the perfect person to ask that, right? Because do they have the same habits? Do they bring home the same amount of beer, non-alcoholic to alcoholic? Those sort of things that I wonder if,
Yeah, I mean, I think that the biggest shift, has been in like I was talking about earlier, where 5 years ago or 10 years ago, there was that kind of hard line in the stand towards abstinence, and and it has really shifted to more towards moderation. And so we see all the time now, and it's interesting having a tap room where people can come in and we can kind of watch their purchasing habits. People will come in, and where they used to have 2 or 3 beers after work, they're having 1 beer and a couple of non-alcoholic beers because they have to drive home or go get groceries, or they want to get up in the morning and not feel like shit, or they're coming in and for the weekend and buying pour regular beer and pour non-alcoholic beer, and they're kind of replacing non-alcoholic beer with beer, or choosing not to drink during the week and only drinking on weekends, or doing things like dry January or sober October. So it's really sort of shifting to more of moderation, and I think that the habits are the same, and like when I talk to people who drink a lot of non-alcoholic beer, they're like, yeah, I love to have a Libra, when I'm preparing dinner, or have a couple of beer when I'm watching the game. And so it really is sort of a replacement for alcohol, but it's not like a complete replacement. People are finding ways to sort of incorporate it into their lives to moderate their alcohol consumption.
I think it's like what we're trying to do with most things, though, right? If you think about it, is not all of us are going to be vegan, but we can definitely take meat out a couple of days a week. It ain't going to kill us. When you look at, Christos, when he did his company,
Aiello is the company.
Aiello, I couldn't think of the name of it. When he did his, he was a bartender. And what he was doing is probably similar. He had people coming into the bar, and they don't want to drink, but they don't want to look like a loser, right? Because it's like when your buddies, you're thinking, you're the one who having raw water or a cran soda. And it's stupid. It's because who cares? But there is that sort of pure thing, and with the guys, it's just you want to have thing, and then the pairing part. So moderation is definitively part of it, I would assume. And just like you said, there's enough health benefit. There's enough reports out there that it's not even moderation of alcohol. They'd actually really like us to stop drinking alcohol.
Totally.
It went from a glass a day to once a week. Was those reports like 6, 7, 8 months ago, which I'm sure was great for you guys.
Oh, absolutely.
And those reports out every day, man.
Yeah, and that's it, right? Like there's something about going out and doing the things that you would typically do, and having a glass of water, you feel like you're not part of.
No, you're not, and
the experience.
I think even the other people feel you're not part of it. Like it just, totally. I don't know.
So if you can have a non-alcoholic beer or a non-alcoholic cocktail, even like being able to participate in the conversation, and that's really where we were trying to get to when we created Libra. Is leaning into that whole craft beer experience where you like to go out and have a couple of craft beers, and you want to talk about it. You want to try the IPA, you want to try the sour, you want to share them and say, hey, you need to try this one, or have you tried that one? But just replace that with non-alcoholic beer, so that, people can go out, they can try the IPA, they can try our sour, they can try our stout, talk about it, give it to someone else to give it, to have a sip, and really be part of the experience that they're used to, so that they don't really feel ostracized and separated from the group.
Yeah, and again, which you shouldn't, and we appreciate that. So everybody's listening, we get it. But the fact is, people are people. You don't want to feel left out. You don't want to feel to be on the fringe. There's some people that do, and I'm glad you got that much confidence. But for a lot of people, it's an issue, right? They don't want to feel like they're outside of the thing.
Totally.
So that's cool.
So I like the it's interesting. I was thinking about it, like from a marketer's point of view, it's just it's interesting that it's kind of a mixed bag. Because like a meatitarian, to Carrie Kenny's example, right? Like for a long time, you didn't do that. You're either a carnivore or like a meat eater or a plant-based, so that mix, it does make it interesting, because it means you're right in with everybody else, like all the alcohol folks, from a marketing standpoint, you're marketing to everybody, right? Anyone who drinks could be your consumer, which is interesting.
It really expands the market exponentially.
100%,
when you're focused on moderation and not abstinence. Yeah,
exactly. Well, you don't get all the defensive walls up.
Yeah.
So do you find, I guess I'm curious too, then, is with because you're in, as soon as you dip your toe into like alcohol and beer in particular, you're in with the heavyweights on alcohol marketing and all that kind of stuff, right? So I'm curious whether I'm curious how much marketing you got to do to get to folks. I get there's an upswing in people who want moderation, but how easy or difficult is it to get your voice heard amongst kind of the heavyweights that are all, because there's like, I feel like every minute there's a couple of $1 million being thrown at shouting voices in the alcohol industry. So I'm curious.
Well, especially beer. Come on.
Yeah.
You got 2 or 3 big guns who spend shitloads of money.
Yeah. And I mean, it's interesting with kind of those big macro brands, I mean, I think a couple of years ago, Heineken allocated 75% of its marketing budget to promoting its non-alcoholic beers. And they've done a good job, in the Corona and Guinness, and they're really using non-alcoholic beer as a way to promote their alcoholic beers because the labels are basically the same.
Well, the branding's all there, right? A Guinness is a Guinness, right? To some degree.
Totally.
Yeah.
And as the restrictions get tighter around promoting alcohol, this is a good way for them to stay relevant. So, and I think at this stage, it's working really in our favor because it's just bringing more attention to the category as a whole. And once people start trying different non-alcoholic products, whether they're starting with a Heineken or a Corona or a Guinness, they're going to try other products and we can kind of take advantage of that.
And we'll be right back.
Hey guys, as you heard at the beginning, this episode is being brought to you by Food and Beverage Atlantic. And we're excited to work with these guys. They are just wonderful people, and they're helping brands and retailers, in the provinces grow. In case you're wondering, Atlantic is New Brunswick, PEI, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. And they are just, they're kind of in with food processors and brands and retailers, just looking to help them innovate and learn new things and kind of stay ahead of the industry.
And I think I think our audience knows, Phil and I really love organizations like this. Mm-hmm. So if you are in the Maritimes, if you're in one of those 4 provinces, I think these are the types of groups definitively that you want to associate with. You want to get in with them because they have, an abundance of resources, whether you're looking for distribution, whether you're looking for brokers, co-packers, or whatever it is. Like, I don't know. I mean, it just seems to be a no-brainer to really become more engaged and just working with people like this. Great group of people, like super excited to give the Maritimes a well-deserved voice because, it's a little tough being in the Maritimes versus some parts of the country. Logistics is tough. Finding co-packers might be tough, but they're there. You just got to know where to look. These would be the guys that I would be definitely getting more involved with to help me find what I need.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool too, because they do so many different things, all sorts of training things as well as networking. They've got, food safety training coming in July. They're going to have their annual awards in October. There's just so many things going on with these guys that I think is super interesting. So
it's just a wicked resource, Phil. It's just a wicked resource. It's there.
Yeah.
Take advantage of it. It's just a wicked resource.
Yeah. All right. So thanks for the break. And now back to the podcast.
I mean, it's a really interesting space to be in because it sort of sits in this like gray area between the grocery channel and the alcohol channel. So, one of our first big retailers was the LCBO in Ontario, and they were really the first liquor board to take us on, and we had reached out to a number of others, but at the time, they were all saying like, no, we're not getting involved in the non-alcoholic space. But a couple of years later, now they're all starting to sort of jump on board because they realize, again, that whole moderation, people are coming in. And when you look at what's in the basket of someone who's buying a non-alcoholic product, there's a study that came out from Nielsen that's like 86% of the people who are buying non-alcoholic products are also buying alcohol. So it makes sense for it to be together.
100%. If you think about it, I buy a case of beer, I buy a case of non-alcoholic beer. I mean, why do you want to make me go to 2 places? Yeah. Right. And exactly. I would think for the liquor store, you'd be thinking, especially because they're all government. I mean, think about this is an easy one for you guys. We're there anyway. Like, take the ring. Nice profits. You don't, really limited health risk, limited issues. Like, you're not going to have people pissed at you for selling, this product. I mean, it's a winner.
But I don't think so. It's rare because Kenny and I don't disagree on many things, but I actually don't know that was clear at the beginning, Kenny. Like maybe, because if you hear the characterization, it's different, right? Is when you're listening to it, the way it always comes out is, my buddies are all drinking, but I don't want to drink, but I want to stay in the party, right? So to me, that says it's a different consumer, not that it's the same consumer, just on a different day, right?
It's possible, but when I buy booze, I'm not buying specifically for me. I have a barbecue. I got people coming to the house. Why make me go to two places? I'm buying beer. I know some of the people.
But you're also buying groceries, so you can't buy groceries at the beer store either, right? So, or at the LCBO. So,
well, I wish that, but that's a whole different argument, because I think we should be allowing that. Because the stupidity of our laws of not having in grocery is a whole different argument, which makes no sense to me, because it's only here. The rest of the world can manage this. Apparently, it's way too complicated for stupid Canadians to manage this all by themselves. Yeah. See, Phil, should never gone down that path. That would drive me.
I don't disagree with you. I just think marketing.
No, I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah. And I think, I think you're both right to a certain extent. There is
that's very kind of you.
There.
You have to pick them, Mitch.
Yeah.
Like,
you're a good guy, Mitch. You put that one really well.
I'm just joking. I mean, how dare you come on this show and try and appease both of us?
Well, exactly. We won't remember this conversation in 10 minutes from now, so it won't matter.
Yeah. No. I think it. I do think it's cool. I really do. I think the marketing part of my brain is, I'm actually surprised and delighted, right? Like they are the same customer, right? Like you can play both. Yeah.
You can definitely play both.
Somehow
to your point, though,
at
the beginning,
different consumer.
But at the beginning, I don't think it was, because I think at the beginning, I don't think it was a moderation issue.
Yeah.
I think when this first started, I can't or shouldn't drink, but I want to have something outside of water. And this, the moderation was not the issue. It was literally, I can't do this, or I shouldn't do this for whatever reasons you had. And the options were shitty, just absolutely sucked. Now you got such great options. So moderation's easy.
I have a curveball question, if you don't mind. Because of, kind of your timing in this space, do you find that with all the cannabis stuff that's happened, has it changed your, on either side, right? Because you've got the Upstreet Craft Brewing, and then you've got the Libra. Have you found the cannabis stuff to have affected your sales at all? Like now that we've kind of legalized that thing, sort of, kind of?
I don't know. I mean, this is something that gets brought up a lot of time, a lot, especially in the US when we talk to distributors down there, and they're saying they're seeing a lot like that. Legalization of cannabis in certain states is what's driving the non-alcoholic beverage movement.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because I also in Canada kind of just feel like everyone was smoking cannabis before it was legalized and then started talking about it after. So I don't know if it had a big impact on the alcohol sales or the non-alcoholic sales, but I think, I think the interesting piece of that, especially in the US where it's a bit more unregulated, and you see these kind of cannabis cafes and places popping up there where people are coming in and they can't serve alcohol in the space. And, there's the potential to sell a lot of non-alcoholic beverages, presents an interesting opportunity, but it's one that I can't really
hard to say. Okay.
Yeah. Put my finger on, but my inclination all along has been like, it's always been going on. I don't think that it has had a big impact. I think people are just more open about it.
Yeah, just a curiosity, right?
Because curious, though, right?
You look at the kids, right, and the kids are kind of like sample size of a handful, but the uni students that kind of run in our circles, every time I ask, it's kind of like it's actually like a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, right? 1/3 drink, 1/3 smoke, and the other third don't do
anything.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah,
it's definitely not the numbers when we were growing up.
No, it's just, I mean, it's the same. My daughter just finished her first year university, and I'm always surprised, like comparing her experience to my experience. It's
can you imagine? I mean,
very different.
I sometimes look and think like, either we got it all wrong, which sometimes I wonder, or you're thinking like
we got it all wrong. Either if we.
Well, I always go on either because, I don't want to make us feel too bad at the end of the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're kind of curious how they just don't seem to be of the same. Well, they're not. It's a different mindset. It's a different way of looking at things.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
It's interesting.
On Libra, where like this is a great set of products. I'm on the website. I'm looking.
How many SKUs do you have? Like, how many products do you have? I haven't gone to the website.
Yeah, so we have 5 flagships. So we launched with a pale ale, and then we've added since that time an IPA. We have a Pilsner, really kind of everyday easy drinking beer. Then we have a cherry sour and a stout, and that kind of rounds out our flagships. And then we really sort of dove into seasonals. So we've put out a few seasonals in the last couple of years. We did a pumpkin spice beer. We did a lavender sage cream ale that was a collaboration with Serena Ryder, and then more recently we just put out a lemongrass ginger saison, and then we have a lime lager that comes out for the summer. So we've been.
It looks nice. Yeah, I like this.
Lavender sage cream ale, yummy. Looks amazing.
What's the stout like?
The stout is great. It's really delicious. It's got really good kind of coffee roasty notes and some good chocolatey notes. And I would say the stout is like by far and away the hardest beer for us to make. But it's also, I would say, the best tasting.
Really? Yeah, your look is nice. It's very pleasant. It's super easy.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah, you carry it. So you're in basically all the categories, for lack of a better. So you got a decent SKU base. What are we talking about? 9 SKUs?
Yeah.
That's not bad. And you're available where? Everywhere?
Getting there. So we're available. We just launched in the Loblaws in the market division in April. So we're available in all the Loblaws banners, Real Canadian Superstores, and then Sobeys, Safeways, probably 170 doors in Sobeys. So we're working at growing our distribution there.
Nice.
Available at the LCBO in Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
And then
nothing out here. I'm in Vancouver. Nothing out west.
We're working on Vancouver or BC right now. So we did have a distributor out there, and we were growing some distribution. But when we switched to a national distributor, we kind of lost some distribution. So we're
that'll happen though. That just happens in general because it's still a very we're very similar to sometimes the Maritimes and or Quebec, as that we really are our own people.
Yeah.
Sometimes everything that's based out of where one of the people on this podcast live, in the center of the universe. The rest of us kind of, like our own things.
I was just going to say he's distributed in all the places that matter. So
that's where I knew he's going to go. Right? Once you're in Ontario, that's all.
No, that's not what I said. He's out east and he's in Ontario, so everywhere that matters, out east in Ontario. But I suppose we could ship some stuff out west, Whatever.
Yeah, we're definitely working hard on it for sure.
Yeah. Well, let me know if you need any help out west, or if you're looking for people, or if you want to know some people, because I do think it would be. I like the look. The price points seem to be consistent with, in essence, everybody else. I mean, like everything out here, shipping is always you got to come across the country.
Yeah,
exactly. That's always the issue. The logistics costs there.
It is what it is, though, right? I mean,
large. Exactly. Yeah.
I want to pick at that a little bit though, like because I think we do joke about it on the show a lot, right? Because I do live in Ontario, and I do think that when you live in Toronto in particular, but in Ontario, life is a little bit easier because everything's here, right? So shipping to go both ways is really not that big of a deal for us. But I feel like both, we've heard this from some of the brands that we have out west that are trying to go to your neck of the woods, for example. And
it's very difficult to do both sides. Very difficult.
And then for where you are to get all the way out to where Kenny is remarkably difficult. When you were, if I kind of pull at that a little bit, like when you were looking around for kind of national partners, how accessible were national partners to you? Like, I don't want names. I don't want you to pick out anybody or, those guys suck, or I'm just curious as to how much are national distributors paying attention to what happens in the Maritimes, for example?
I don't know that they're paying that close of attention to what's happening in the Maritimes. They're certainly paying attention to the non-alcoholic beverage space, which I think, we had going for us. I mean, we were able to, we were the first non-alcoholic brand in Atlantic Canada. So we were able to get a large market share and develop a really great relationship with Sobeys, which sort of allowed us to expand. And the LCBO was one of our early retail partners. So, I think that kind of helped us get the eye of a national distributor. And we were approached by someone and decided to work with them, and it's been pretty good so far. And I mean, it has been challenging. I mean, and PEI being an island, there's even more logistical.
You added an extra complication on top of it, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, we've, so our two biggest performing SKUs, the Pale Ale and the IPA, have really outgrown the brewery here in Charlottetown. So we've moved those to a contract manufacturer in Ontario and have been producing them there. And as each SKU kind of reaches a certain threshold, we're moving it to Ontario. And that really allows us to gain, quite a bit of margin.
I mean, the difference between Toronto and, Charlottetown, it's not 3 minutes. It's a hike. Yeah. And you got, islands, bridges, like there's logistically, it's not easy. When you come west, our problem is always, we've got this nice strip of mountains that separates us from the rest of the country. And those, as soon as you get past Calgary, costs go through the roof. And it's in large part, it's that. I mean, there's some problem. It is what it is, right? But it's just trying to figure out how to get around it, because, I mean, I do think, out of the stuff I've seen, I actually really like your packaging. I think it looks really nice. The price points, again, I mean, those price points, are those 6, 8, 12? What packs are those?
Those are 4 packs. Yeah. So I would say that we're on the premium side.
You're premium
to some of the other competitors. Yeah.
Yeah, you're premium, but you're not brutal.
No, not by any stretch. I don't think. I think you're on the upside, but
you're definitely on the upside. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're not an inexpensive. Inexpensive product.
No, it's cool though.
But
thanks for that. I do think, like, we don't talk about it a lot, particularly me, because of where I live. We don't really give distribution a thought, right? You kind of go like, when I want it, I'm going to be able to figure out how to do it. But I do see, our folks out west in particular, that's an issue. And then like out east, we've talked to a bunch of brands, but some of them already had national. You think of Made with Local, they already had national distribution, right? So, but that's,
you guys are very fortunate for proximity, because you're in the middle of the country for both sides, and you're so large that really everything is there. When you're on the periphery, it does make it a little harder because you've got distance, and that's what it is. I mean,
it's the one place that, like the big, kind of the big guys you benefit from, right? Because they're already shipping from here. And so all of a sudden you're riding on rail cars that, started with a big guy, right? Like you're probably squished in the middle of a big guy on the front end of a rail car and the back end of a rail car, right? So the middle cars, it's great for little guys, right? But for everyone else in the other ends of the country, it's like, if they're not going there, good luck, right? Like, I don't know how you're going to get there, right? Like pack mule, row your own boat. I don't know, Wow. So what comes next for you? So you're trying to get out west, and then are you, don't give us any trade secrets or anything like that, but what do you want to be able to do with this brand? Like, where does it go from here?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're really focused on continuing to expand our distribution, particularly out west and in Quebec, and starting to put together, I guess, the plan or work through the regulatory framework to start shipping product to the US. and getting all of our partners set up down there. And then, really continuing to innovate in the beer space and also exploring, what other non-alcoholic beverages could look like as well. So, kind of playing around some with like functional ingredients and different things that we can be adding into the beer or other beverages that have additional health benefits for people. And yeah,
it's cool though. That's good for you.
Cool. It's really cool. There's I feel like functionally there's a lot going on too, because I think people are starting to look at beverages and go, what more can they do for me, right? So it is an interesting space to be in for sure.
It's transitioning really cool, right? I mean, all of it. It's just it starts with just the quality of the products now. They're not offensive to drink. I mean, you think, wow, this is a beer experience, or this is a cocktail experience, and that's kind of what you're shooting for.
Totally,
right? Yeah. Without the buzz or the issues that go with the other side.
I'm just really working at creating great tasting, complex beverages that pair well with food, and that
you're good to go, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, this is really great.
Good for you.
Mitch, thanks for doing this. This has been amazing.
On such short notice
really, too. We really appreciate you jumping in.
No problem at all. Like I said, I'm happy to do it. Always happy to chat about the non-alcoholic beverage space.
We'll meet you in October.
Yeah. Will you be at the Food and Bev Atlantic Awards?
Oh, in October?
Yeah.
I'm not sure yet. But, it's actually on PEI. So
I think it's in Charlottetown.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be there. It'd be cool to come by and have a non-alcoholic drink with you.
I want both.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we can do a full sampling of.
I want both, man. I want to try
all the beverages,
the old school and the new school.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Before you go, so if people want to find you, where are the best places to find you?
Yeah, so you can find us on social media at Drink Libra, or our website, drinklibra.ca, or like I said earlier, if they're looking for a product, any of the Loblaws banners, Sobeys Safeway, LCBO in Ontario, or online at Amazon or well.ca or Upside Drinks.
Awesome. Very cool. Mitch, thanks so much.
Hey, thank you guys too.
You have a great afternoon.
Have a great afternoon.
Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, anytime.
Okay.
We'll see you in the fall.
See you.
Take care, man.
Cool.
Interesting.
Cool. Very interesting.
What I like about it more than anything is I like, and this is like I like even talking to Christos that time, or this. I like the guys who give a shit to make a really good tasting product. Right? And it's funny because if you think about us, two people we've met that have actually come from the space. One who actually made craft beer and the other one who was a bartender.
Yeah.
And they actually do. It's almost like they came at it from the side. Well, if we're going to do this, we have to do it. It's got to taste like it's got to be the same.
Yeah.
Like there can't be these massive differences because it's not going to work.
No, you can't feel like you're, I think that's the thing with today's consumers. You can't feel like you're giving something up.
Well, I think this is where, when we talk about even, the vegan thing, the vegan thing's gone nowhere. So let's be very clear. But the amount of products that we see is lessened and this and that is because I think when you make inferior product or you put so much stuff into it, it's not, you know what I mean? Like you got to be true to what it is.
Yeah.
Like that's why, like if I like umi, it is what it is, tofu. But I love how they've changed it a little bit or whatever it is. Like it's that kind of thing. So if you can find a beer that tastes like a beer, then that's killer, man. My beer and pizza nights survive, which it makes me very happy inside.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody.